It's been a
So,
while.
a preface... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, to preface this first episode and recurring episodes about lore, this is my interpretation of what I have researched. This is not strictly canon, as most of the lore we're going to talk into has purposeful contradictions, and the writers of the Elder Scrolls video games have confirmed that there is technically no canon story on the beginnings of Dagoth Ur. So, just want to put that out there. You may hear things that are weird, but for the most part, this is through my lens of studying the lore.
He's a god. How dare you question a god? I'm just kidding.
I got you.
Alrighty. You should. Okay, let me do some. You can start talking about like, do some tinkering here with the podcast, like get everything going with the window capture.
All right. Okay, so to start this whole conversation, we got to get real basic. So, well, I say basic. We have to zoom out a little bit. So, the entirety of the Elder Scrolls substance, Oblivion, Mundus, Aetherius, Nirn, the entirety of the series exists in a dream. There are several interpretations of who the dreamer is. I believe the most common is Anu. So the... Say again?
Pandemai or no?
Well, kind of. So the very, very beginning, it's said that Anu and what I'm going to call Darth Anu
Oh god.
were both well, it's because it's Padme is, well, I'll get into it. So Darth Anu and regular Anu has loves a woman named Nere.
Like
Darth
Go ahead.
Darth Anu also loves her, but kills her. Anu then kills Darth Anu and is said to go to sleep in the sun. So we're not entirely sure what that means. But when the dreamer, as I will now call him, because it gets complicated again. So the dreamer has a dream and he is present, but Darth Anu is also present now in this dream. And we call that version Padme. So Padme, I'm not sure. They are the epitome of change and chaos, as opposed to Anu, who is order and kind of stationary. This breakup is part of the dreamer's way of
Padme
coping.
Or Padme Amidala, what a grand and intoxicating
if you take the Anu
innocence.
account to be literal, the death of his loved one. And in order to further understand itself, the dreamer starts creating things out of itself. So it is said that Anu and Padme, chaos and order, in order to know themselves, again, both of them are the dreamer, but in different aspects. So now Anu and Padme need to know themselves as well, because at the moment they are more physical realities than they are persons. So Anu creates his lesser soul, Anuiel, and Padme creates...
Question: how did they become not people anymore?
It's basically the way I could explain it is that he himself, the dreamer, is dreaming, and what we call Anu and Padme in the lore is
Anu and Padme are false gods. Dagoth Ur is the only
more
true
of
god.
a force. So it's more of the cultures assigning the name Anu and Padme to a force that exists.
Yes.
And that's why we say they're not technically persons, because they're more like contradicting laws of the universe. Well, okay, science doesn't have laws, math has laws, but kind of the metaphysical forces that are above all. So they kind of are conscious beings, but
also what? Connor. Oh no, I can't hear you. Okay, guys. Anyhow, as Connor was explaining, there's this Anu guy and the Padme guy, and all of them are false gods. Yes.
False gods, all of them. False gods, all of them. I, Dagoth Ur, is the only one and true god.
Hold up. In the sense.
False gods, all of them. I, Dagoth Ur, am the only one and true god. What a grand and intoxicating innocence.
Oof. Alright, so I think Dagoth Ur actually is a what's it called? An anime character. Because he kind of has this like very sad origin story, just generally, and is just very he's actually not the main antagonist. The main antagonist is Vivec, by all accounts, in my opinion. But there is a lot of things that might actually like imply that that he's evil and what he does is evil, but it's almost like necessary evil. So I don't think Dagoth Ur did anything wrong. That's what I think personally. I don't know if when Connor returns, he might enlighten us on this a little bit, but that's just my take on Dagoth Ur. And I don't know, we do see him in Arena at first, and then in other places. Like we don't see him in Daggerfall. We see him in Morrowind, and then we see him kind of referenced in Skyrim, like the Dragonborn DLC. But I'm surprised that he was never like. Yes, you can ask questions, of course. You may ask questions in the chat. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what the chat is for. You can ask me all the questions that you want.
Oh boy, I'm back. I guess Todd Howard was mad at me. My power just dropped.
It did.
But
out of all the days.
Yeah, I know, right? Hold on. Okay, there we go. Now I can see the chat. Let's see here. Let's move you guys to the left so I can like watch you. So I believe I was at the Anu and Padme. So that's them. In order to know themselves, they created a lesser soul each, Anuiel and what we call Sithis.
Here's a question.
And
here's a question: does Dagoth Ur consider Todd Howard to be a god? Isn't Todd Howard the Godhead?
Because no. Todd isn't the Godhead, but no, of course Dagoth Ur does not consider Todd Howard to be a god because Dagoth Ur is the only god and is the dreamer who has awakened. So Todd can't be God.
Let's hear from Dagoth himself. Todd, hold on. I'm using your love and laughs for this.
Todd is not a god. What a grand and intoxicating innocence.
There we go. Go ahead. Continue, Connor. Sorry for the interruptions.
No problem. Okay. So, Sithis and Anuiel are, if we would call, I would say Anu and Padme are semi-conscious. Anuiel and Sithis are conscious. And then, in order to know themselves better, once again, they have two more offshoots, Ariel and Lorcan, who, for the rest of this video, I will be calling Shorecon, because he is both Lorcan and Shore. So, all of this to mention what the backstory is for what we know as the Sharmat. So I'll touch on that in a minute, but let's zoom back in and we'll go to the Battle at Red Mountain.
Connor, just in general, you know what would be really interesting if we had like a shared life painting thingy where we could like do charts and stuff because this is
oh my gosh.
we need
Yeah,
charts for this.
You get, look, I literally have a notebook, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 pages just for Dagoth Ur. This is not even what, like, there is a lot of underlying crap that I'm going to have to get to eventually on this podcast. But for right now, we're going to try to just give a general foundation.
By the way, guys, like the stream and subscribe to the channel if you like it, so the algorithm boosts it, and that we would have more Dagoth Ur podcasts in the future, maybe with other Dagoth channels. Yay! Anyhow, let's continue.
All right. So, question here. Are there any in-game books or conversations that discuss the consciousness that is not a personness of Anu and Padme? I believe the main source for Anu and Padme are the pocket guidebook to the Empire, I think, and the Anuiad, which the Anuiad is basically Alicia's like propaganda. It tells the story of creation from the view of the Needs, who then turned into the Imperials. I'm gonna be honest. I did not I did not write like citations for every book and scroll and other resources. I know, I'm the worst. I'm like a guy who gets on the wiki and just changes things for fun and doesn't cite anything.
How dare you not cite a god? What a grand and intoxicating innocence.
Truly, I am not the dreamer, which proves that Vorin is. So, Vorin is what I would like to describe as a Dwemer nerd. This is different from Dagoth Ur, who is a god. I'll get into that nonsense also in a minute. So, Vorin Dagoth, 6th house tribal leader, I think they're called something specific in the lore, but he's the head of the household. He is very good friends with Indoril Nerevar.
Or no, Nerevar is for the Hortator.
Yes, Nerevar is the Hortator, and Dagoth Ur is the Sharmat, which are ideas I will get into a little later. So, Nerevar, Vorin, Sotha, Almalexia, and Vivec
I'm gonna put the
are all
soundtrack in the background.
companions at this point. They trust each other. They are basically friends. Almalexia is Nerevar's wife, thus the name Indoril, because her house was of higher status than his. So when they got married, he takes on her, what you could call a surname, except it's in the front. Dunmer naming conventions are very interesting. They have they start with your house name. You get I think it's the city as your middle name, and then you have your given name. So for Nerevar, I would have to hold on. I'll actually look this up for you guys real quick because I'm not like specific. That specific. So his full name is not well is not on the well. It's not important. Basically, there are 3 names in Dunmer naming conventions. So we refer to Nerevar as Indoril Nerevar because his house was lesser than Almalexia's. So she is an Indoril, and so since he marries up and is called Indoril Nerevar. So Indoril Nerevar used to be friends with the king of the dwarves at the time, Dwemer, Dwarf King. And when he found out that Dwemer was going to, try to use the heart and power to him, they got into a tiff, which turned into a war. So Vorin and the Tribunal and Nerevar fight their way with various companions to Red Mountain. When they get to Red Mountain, there are a couple of things that happen. Nerevar ends up killing Dwemer, Dwarf King.
All right. Back up. This is like the part that I'm always confused at. What exactly happened at Red Mountain? Like, you're explaining it, but like, there's a lot of like sources here, like from Vivec, from everybody else. Something very shady happened there.
Yes, very shady. It is argued in the community that it may have even been a dragon break by the, by the standard that we would refer to dragon breaks as.
It sounds like it.
So, again, to reiterate, Bethesda themselves has said there is no canon to what happened at Red Mountain. So again, take this as an interpretation of the facts that we get. There is heavy implications that one of them happened concretely and the others are just either propaganda or miscommunications, but I will do my best to make this a converged timeline, praise Akatosh, all that. So, they fight their way into Red Mountain. Nerevar confronts Dwemer. Kagranak uses the tools on the heart, assumedly incorrectly. All the dwarves vanish immediately. There is talk at this point that they quote-unquote zero-summed, but
what does that
as
mean?
far as so zero summing is what happens when you attempt to achieve CHIM and do not.
By the way, someone is saying, would you ever use a Dagoth Ur voice changer?
That's a very interesting question.
We were exploring this.
We were thinking of it. We have to work out a couple of kinks. that were
Yes.
happening. There was a little bit of a drop in call, but yes, we are working on that. That is definitely going to be a thing in the future.
Nerevar. I mean, for now we can use 11 labs. We can like make Dagoth Ur say stuff. If you know what I'm saying. Through 11 labs.
Yeah. So zero summing. So it seems to be in the community a lot of the lore behind zero summing is that you realize you are in a dream, you realize that you are not real, and instead of saying, no, it doesn't matter, I am real and I will make of this universe what I wish, which is CHIM, you zero sum. And
why are we doing math on this
literature
podcast?
that I've
Did Kagrenak
found
do math? What a
and
grand
some
and intoxicating
interesting,
innocence.
Less popular Elder Scrolls lore YouTube channels, which I can't cite specifically for this, but the assumption is that zero summing means that you cease existing. I do not think that is what happened. I've seen some points made that it is misunderstood that the Dwemer zero-summed. They may not have. They are not specified to have zero-summed. We do have a book on zero-summing, however... An in-game book, I mean. However, it's not something that I personally think is what happened to the Dwemer.
What do you think what happened to the... Okay, since we're going on this tangent, what do you think happened to the Dwemer? Since this is kind of connected.
I believe that the Dwemer likely became an oversoul, or what I believe one of the lessons of Vivec says, the skin of Numidium, which skin in the Elder Scrolls context is culture. It signifies culture, which is why Azura changed the Chimer to the Dunmer to kind of create the new culture that they were about to experience. So changing skins is like changing culture. So that's what I believe. I believe that their souls more than likely are kind of like one with what Numidium is. Is and was. It's complicated, and it depends on if you take Coda as canon.
Coda, I don't think Coda is.
But yeah, no, it's absolutely not canon. But people in the community will still cite it as, well, it was written by MK, so it's canon.
I see.
Yeah. So the tools are just lying in the heart chamber. No more Dwemer, no more war. Vorin.
No more Dwemer, no more war. That's a good slogan. Actually.
Yes. Yeah. So Vorin, being the Dwemer nerd that he is, comprehends what these tools could be capable of doing to the heart. So, and here's where we get the potential dragon break, is when they activate the heart of Lorkhan, when the Dwemer do. So, our accounts are Vorin attempts to convince Nerevar to study the tools, but absolutely do not use them. Or he pleads for their destruction entirely. No studying, no use, just throw them into the lava and be done with it. Nerevar is conflicted on this and goes to talk with the Tribunal and tasks Vorin to keep charge of the heart and the tools. Now, here's where we get into a little bit of theory crafting. So either Lorkhan by his own... Vorin of his own volition attempts to tinker with the heart, or Shorkan / Numidium tempts him into using the heart.
Oh, so the medium himself. So Lorcan himself is present, kind of, there. You're saying.
It is possible that the heart was whispering to Vorin to tempt him into using it by Shorkan's will. Yes. I would probably guess it was something along those lines. I don't see Vorin Dagoth at this point using the tools just to satisfy his own curiosity. I don't think he would have done that as the person he's ascribed to be while he is still known as Vorin. I also think he respected Nerevar too much to betray him like that immediately, except for some outside force. So, he uses, somehow, some way, he gets entwined with the heart itself. He is revealed, the entirety of the truth of the universe of the Elder Scrolls is revealed to him through the heart, more than likely, again, by Shorkan. But these are forces that are kind of Lovecraftian in a way. So, like, no mortal was ever meant to, like, do that. It's not... It drove him insane, basically. What he likely thinks is that he is the dreamer. Also. And is lucid dreaming. So he claims to be the one that is dreaming the universe into existence in the first place. That has become aware. Which is a misinterpretation on his part. So Nerevar speaks with the Tribunal. They all agree, okay.
He basically took DMT and saw the fabric.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, I mean that's a good way of putting it. So Nerevar and the Tribunal talk. They go back to Dagoth, who is now utterly insane and refuses to give up the tools, refuses to let anyone near the heart, and Nerevar and Dagoth are come to blows.
So Nerevar and Dagoth Ur go against each other? That's what you're saying?
Yes. Well, yes and no. So, back to the Dumac. There is a timeline, if we're taking this as Dragon Break terms, which I think will be more useful. There is a timeline where Nerevar dies in his battle to Dumac. And it is just the Tribunal that confront Dagoth Ur. The other timelines, Nerevar survives, but his shield brother doesn't. And
how does Nerevar survive?
Oh, he doesn't. In all timelines, he's dead.
So if Doctor
Strange
all
of them.
If Doctor Strange looked at them in all timelines, there are no timelines where he survived.
That is correct. There is no secret Thanos dead timeline. There is only dead Nerevar. It is dead Nerevar all the way down.
Okay.
So
Connor, sorry for interrupting, but just real quick. I'll be reading like what the audience said and be asking you questions, and since you're the lore apprentice or that stuff, you'll be the ones talking. How's that sound?
Okay. That makes sense, because I gotta read I gotta read my notes, so it's hard to look at the chat.
Alright, perfect.
Okay, so
guys, like and support the streams so we could do more podcasts. We plan more episodes. So your support will make sure that these podcasts continue. All right.
We
let's
thrive
go.
on your adoration and your allegiance to the sixth house and the tribe unmourned.
Show your allegiance to the sixth. Hold on. Let me do. You continue talking. I'll let Dagoth say that.
Okay. So now Nerevarine and Dagoth Ur fight. Either they both die in the fight, or Dagoth Ur dies, and then the Tribunal murder Nerevar and use the tools.
Subscribe
Either
to the
way,
sixth house and the
Nerevar's
tribe
dead, and the
unmourned to
Tribunal have
bask in the
used
glory of
tools.
Dagoth.
Okay, go ahead.
Now we can start calling him Dagoth Ur, the god. So a quick rundown. Basically, Vivec describes that when he achieved CHIM, Vivec the mortal and Vec the god were separated from each other.
Okay,
And
that's not a thing. What is Vivec and what is Vec?
okay, so Vivec is quite the figure. So he was, if you believe the story not told by Vivec, he was a poor and downtrodden Chimer who became friends with Nerevar very early on. There's some backstory to it. I'm sure when we do a Vivec episode, I'll be able to go into more detail. But
he's the real bad guy.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, the Tribunal must be cursed because yes. we here honor the sixth house and the tribe unmourned, not the Tribunal.
Yes, I'm gonna do some Let's Plays too. I'm reading a comment. Hold on, let me read the chat a little bit. And also it says that they got the wrong view, thinking that he's a dreamer, but he's technically right because as a part of the dream, he's a part of the dreamer, so anyone could technically be the lucid dreamer.
Yes, that is absolutely correct. Yes. The reason I differentiate is because yes, everyone in the universe is Anu in some way, or the dreamer part, a piece of the dreamer. And basically the entirety of existence is purely 100% to reabsorb everyone and awaken. And in order to do that, he has to continually sub-splinter himself in his own dream so that he knows all of the outcomes and all of the life experience and etc. of the entirety of the universe of Elder Scrolls. So, in that comment, you are correct. Anybody who has achieved either CHIM, which is what we call things like Vivec, or maybe Talos. I'm going to put an asterisk there. That'll be an interesting episode as well. And then there's a term anti-CHIM, which is assigned to Vorin. I don't necessarily agree that it's like anti-CHIM, but the difference between CHIM and anti-CHIM is basically the difference between I am we versus we are
Vivec is a false god and should not exist.
CHIM allows you to understand that you and everyone else is a piece of Anu. Anti-CHIM is where you assign what Vorin assigns to the rest of the universe, which is you are all versions of me that need to be reabsorbed into my hive mind consciousness. So it kind of flips the idea on its head. So Dagoth Ur. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't finish the point with Vivec. Vivec in Morrowind describes a zone, quote unquote, or a place where Vivec the mortal can commune with Vec the god. Vivec describes it, I believe Vivec describes it like, I sleep for what feels like thousands of years, and I wake up and only one moment has passed. And
Alright, good
the
night,
God
Lucy.
Zone, as I like... yeah, good night. The God Zone, as I call it, is also utilized in Morrowind. Vivec transports you to the God Zone to teach you a couple of things that would take a very long time in the real world. So he bloops you out of existence, teaches you all that stuff, and then bloops you back in, and not a moment has passed. And you didn't even... I believe the player character did not even notice. Kinda... He's just like, all right, I'm gonna go teach you right now, and then boop, hey, welcome back. So Dagoth Ur now is Vorin is dead, but Dagoth Ur, the god, is not dead because Vorin tied his soul pretty much to the heart of Lorkhan.
You're saying gods and their like stuff is separate, kind of, or what? Is that what you're trying?
Okay, so yes, the god. I believe, I'm not sure if it's in the sermons or in the in-game dialogue, but Vivec kind of describes it. Basically, when you ask, there is dialogue that you can go down that will eventually reveal that Vivec admits that Vivec the Mortal killed Nerevar, but denies that Vec the God did so.
Dang.
So there is this kind of playfulness between mortal and god, and when you're one or the other, and how that really works. It's vague and interpretive, but it seems kind of... So how best to describe it would be like Mana Marco. So in Oblivion, Mana Marco, I haven't played Elder Scrolls yet online yet, so don't at me in the comments about, Mana Marco and...
We should stream it, since this is actually doing extremely well. I didn't expect it to do this well. We should actually start streaming ESO sometimes. We should pick a day.
I wouldn't be opposed, yeah.
Yeah, we could do a podcast at the
We could
same
do that.
time as we play.
Oh my lord. Talk about multitasking.
We should probably do it separate. Yes, go ahead.
So the Tribunal, in my opinion, kill Nerevar, take the tools, use the heart. Azura shows up, changes the skin of Sothasil, half of Vivec, and the entirety of the rest of the Dunmer culture. Almalexia does not change. It seems to be that because they were now living gods, they could choose whether or not to be cursed in the first place, which their manner of skin kind of ranks their manner of acceptance. So Sothasil completely did not give a single crap and was always searching for a way to make the Dunmer culture expand and grow and become sophisticated. So, as I said earlier, skin is also used as a metaphor for culture. Sothasil fully embraced the change of culture. He said, fine, we're not Khmer anymore, we're Dunmer. Azura is an asshole. All the Daedric princes are total crap. We're gonna move on from them. Vivec understands that the culture will change, but doesn't necessarily agree that the Khmer culture was irrelevant now. So, thus, half gray, half gold. And Almalexia is... Well, there are a lot of words I could use that would probably get YouTube mad on what on what Almalexia is, but
let's
let's
just say
say for now,
Let's say Almalexia is unhinged, a yandere, just
and a bit stubborn, just a tiny bit, and by a tiny bit I mean like the size of the moon. She refuses to
actually,
give up
no, not
the
just
cult.
it's the size of the Master and Secunda. That's the size we're
Yeah,
talking
there you go.
about.
Master and Secunda, exactly. Jane and Jode. I forget what the Khajiit call them. I personally think that the Khajiit are right on the moons. I do not agree that they are Shor Khan's body, but that's, again, another podcast. So, Tribunal's cursed. Dunmer cursed. They move on. They do their own thing. Dunmer culture now becomes worshipful of the Tribunal instead of the three good Daedra, Azura, Boethia, and Mephala. And I'm going to be referring to Boethia as either they, them, or he, him. For Skyrim players, I know that you know them as her. Boethia is one of the only Daedra that we see that just kind of swaps their gender / well, they don't have sex because they're not, they don't have a sex.
Use the forbidden word. We're gonna get demonetized. Anyhow, not really, but
what?
It's a joke.
No. So Boethia, okay, let me go to the mirroring. So Vivec mirrors Mephala. Sothasil mirrors Azura. And Almalexia mirrors Boethia.
Mm-hmm.
So note that you have 2 male gender confirming, 1 female.
Also,
my headcanon is... Go ahead.
I want to just do a newsflash. If you think that this is gender ideology, it's not. We've had this since the 90s, right? This whole thing.
Yeah, and this is beyond like literal physical things. Like, we are talking about manifestations of concepts at this point. They do not have a sex. None of them have a sex. They all have a gender, and we're not just. They assign themselves whatever they feel like it because they're all shapeshifters and they could take any form they want. Boethia chooses to change that up on occasion. I don't know that there's a lore reason. They just kind of feel like doing it, I guess. But for my headcanon, because there are 2 men, 1 woman in the Tribunal, I personally like the idea that Boethia is the 1 male, or man, I should say, gender, not sex, is the 1 man in the good Daedra, and Azura and Mephala are 2 women in the good Daedra. And I kind of like that opposite swap up, that the 2 men are...
don't let Twitter or X get the wind of this part, LOL.
I think everybody can agree that in a mythical world with magic and shapeshifters, this stuff's just gonna happen. It's just inevitable. But again, as I say, that is my personal headcanon. I think it's beautifully poetic to say that, you know, that there's 2 men, 1 woman versus 2 women, 1 man. And the fact that they reflect each other. I just really like that concept. But Boethia specifically is ambiguous in their gender
That's the thing.
confirmation. Oh yeah, of course, but most of them choose to stay presenting as a main gender, whereas Boethia seems to not care. So they go off, they create the new Dunmer culture, living gods. They what are they? Pilgrim. They take a pilgrimage to the heart every once in a while, because while Vivec achieved CHIM, the other 2 did not, and all 3 of their god powers are fueled by the heart. Now, I'm not sure that applies in totality to Vivec because he achieved CHIM, which adds a layer of... If you've ever heard the story of Sun Wukong, he becomes immortal 7 different ways. Like, just, like, eats an immortal fruit, then goes into the immortal water, and then, like, crosses his name out of the Book of Death.
He eats a
like,
devil's fruit.
Eats a devil's fruit, becomes a rubber man, yayo, yayo. So it's the same concept. Vivec seems to be a god in more than one level of thinking. So at some point, one of the pilgrimages goes terribly wrong. Dagoth Ur awakens from his sleep. Ambushes the Tribunal as they try to use the tools on the heart to re-energize them. Steals the 2 of the 3 sacred tools. Thankfully, he only got Keening and Sunder, which will literally kill you if you're not wearing Wraithguard. I guess that applies to a god as well, because he apparently needed Wraithguard. I suppose that kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't. I'm not sure what they were thinking there. But regardless, the Tribunal kept Wraithguard but lost Keening and Sunder. And inevitably then lost their connection to the Heart of Lorkhan. So, while Vivec, Amalexia, and Sotha Sil are slowly losing godly power, Dagoth Ur is slowly gaining godly power from his proximity to the heart.
Dagoth wave! Yes! Immediately. Get it?
Yes.
Like, so they're losing their godly power and he's gaining it, despite, like... So, it's a start of a crisis, right? Basically.
Exactly. It is the beginning of the end if the Nerevarine had not succeeded. Like, this is... Yeah. Every other game would be peanuts compared to this.
Yeah, he's not even...
An interesting...
Like, I don't know. I never took Dagoth Ur seriously until I looked into his lore. It's like, oh yeah, he might have actually brought the end to the world.
Yeah, he very well could have. I mean, there was nothing that anybody would be able to do. They'd either become insane monsters or pretty much mind-controlled by Dagoth. Like, those were the 2 options for Corpus, which is one of the 2 divine diseases that he made. Mm-hmm. So he steals Keening and Sunder, and he starts working on a Kulakan. So, here's where we get a little bit of some interesting lore. A Kulakan is basically the inverse of Numidium. So Numidium was going to be pure destruction. Kind of an I am not, but given literal form. The Dwemer were crazy and were going to use Numidium to pretty much raise the entire planet of Nirn. A Kulakan would be the inverse. It was going to spread Corpus to the rest of Nirn and and let's say, half the populace would become disgusting, horrible, insane, cannibalistic monsters, and the other half would become completely and totally bound to Dagoth Ur and his whims. So, a Kulakan, in a very sick way, a forceful way, represents cohesion, whereas Numidium represented pure destruction.
By the way, someone says
so
do more Pelennor and Sheogorath. Yes, we're gonna talk about them, and I'll do more Pelennor and Sheogorath vids, that's for sure. Anyhow, continue, Conrad.
Yes, we're hoping to make this a regular thing. So if you guys have any suggestions on topics or any interesting, lore quips, please do not hesitate if you are in the Discord to ping me in, I think it's called Lore Speakers Library or Imperial Library. Either way, Imperial Library. Do not be afraid to ping me. I am not, gonna run up to you and kill you because you pinged me in Discord. If you have a lore-related question or topic, just you feel free to ping me. I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. But moving on, so he starts work on a Kulkan, and then and I'm not sure how he did it, but he created what he calls the divine disease: Blight and Corpus. Blight is a much lesser form of Corpus, and basically okay, if anybody's familiar with toxoplasmosis, it's a germ that some cats have. It's pretty much harmless. You don't need to worry about getting it. If you have cats, you very likely already have it. All it does is make you more friendly towards or compassionate towards cats. It is used in a predatory way. Basically, if a mouse or a rat comes into contact with a cat with toxoplasmosis's fecal matter, they stop being afraid of cats, which makes them very easy to eat. So that is the biological reason. So it's kind of exactly that. The Blight makes you more receptive to Dagoth, more compassionate, more likely to be supportive of him, whereas the Corpus disease makes you full-on, basically a mind slave, or what we would call a thrall, to Dagoth Ur. You pretty much lose your identity and just become a puppet, basically, that he can control.
You start regarding cats like gods, basically, like the ancient Egyptians were regarding cats as gods. Now you will be doing the same thing to Dagoth Ur, right? Seeing him.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which,
so
does that mean we're all infected? We are all infected.
Yes,
by the Dwemer.
But
if you're infected by that,
we have yes, but we have accepted the great blessing that he has bestowed upon us.
Yes, and we're spreading his blessing now.
That does seem to be the case.
At some point I want to have enough money to actually buy a house of worship and actually turn it into a 6-house house of worship, just as a joke.
That would be really funny.
Make it happen.
So
subscribe.
Yeah. Subscribe and raise your thumbs and write on the parchment below, but only after the podcast is done, because right now we need you guys for questions in the chat. So, Dagoth starts slowly spreading these two diseases out. The Tribunal are like, this is not good. So they use the souls of the Dunmer's ancestors to erect what they call the Ghost Fence. Which basically kind of works, but not in totality. So there are still people getting Corpus.
You're telling me they build a wall? I mean, I did play Morrowind, so I did see the Ghost Fence. So you're saying that they?
They built a wall and they had Dagoth pay for it.
Oh man.
That's an old meme. So they erect the Ghost Fence. At first, all three of them are contributing their god powers to it, but as time goes on, Almalexia retreats to her palace, and becomes kind of a shut-in. And Sothasil
Alexia was shut in. Oh man.
She is. Yes, she just kind of hid in her temple and is pretending that everything is fine when it's not. She's very stubborn.
Yeah, she doesn't want to accept reality.
No, she doesn't. So she goes off and tries to pretend that the problem doesn't exist. Sotha Sil does not care that the problem exists. He's too busy trying to research Dwemer technology and create his own type of technology. I mean, assuming that Sotha hadn't died, the Elder Scrolls might have internet by now. But he does die.
He was actually like, and we know. Spoiler alert: we know how he dies.
Oh yeah, so I'll go ahead and go. I mean, that's true. If you've played Morrowind, you know how he dies. But I'll maybe keep that.
Before you go there, what do you mean by internet? Elder Scrolls internet.
Oh, I'm saying that if Sotha Sil had survived, he would have likely created things similar to what the internet is. I mean, he was very big in technology, and he found a couple of... I believe he started tinkering with tonal architecture, which is what the dwarves used. Yeah. But he was very much a scientist / inventor. So had he been able to survive, Tamriel as we know it would be far more advanced than it is in Skyrim. So just by nature of his tinkering.
Oh man, Sotha Incel. Morrowind had the face tattoos before they became mainstream.
Oh, are we dealing with Moro boomers in the chat?
Yeah, we have a lot of Moro boomers in the chat.
Good. Shout out to the Moro boomers who provide our undying love to the 6th house and the tribe unmourned.
Like the stream.
So Vivec is the sole person basically that's powering the Ghost Fence as of the time of Morrowind, and it is failing.
Oh no.
Prior to this, Nerevar is in a perpetual state of reincarnation. If we count ESO, we see 10 different incarnates at least that have tried and failed to become the Nerevarine. The third era Nerevarine, though, succeeds. So we all know how, assumedly we all know how Dagoth Ur ended.
So you're saying all these false incarnations were actual incarnations?
You are the Nerevarine if you complete the prophecy. Otherwise, you are not actually the Nerevarine. I know that that's a very weird thing to hear. Yes, I know, because we think about reincarnation as...
Are you hearing this?
Okay. Oh boy. Okay, so there's this thing called the Dream Sleeve, where all souls inevitably get recycled back into the system. Even if you've reached, what do they call it in Elder Scrolls now? Not Asgard, not Valhalla. What are they?
Sovngarde.
Why can't I think of the... Sovngarde, thank you, Sovngarde. Even them, even Akatosh and Shorkhan, everyone eventually goes back into the Dream Sleeve when the current Kalpa is finished. So, and Kalpas are another thing. They're basically resets of the entire universe. Alduin was supposed to do that and just didn't, because he was an arrogant child who did not want to do his father's doings, although the Akka Oversoul is also a topic. He technically is Akatosh, but Akatosh's mind has kind of been shattered over the couple of millennia. We can go into that on an episode of the Akka Oversoul, but But the main point is that there exists a place where souls get recycled into the next Kalpa. I'm not entirely sure that it's clear what constitutes when someone goes back into the Dream Sleeve, but it happens. So technically, no. They were never reincarnations of Nerevar. The only one that was technically a reincarnation of Nerevar, aka the Nerevarine, is the one that succeeds in being the Nerevarine.
Technically.
Yes, technically. Colloquially, we could say that they are all Nerevar.
Chat, they don't count. He's counting all of our characters false. My world has been shattered, Connor. What have you done?
Yeah.
I thought I was in Nerevarine, but I'm not.
Nope. Not until you complete the quest.
R.I.P. Type R.I.P. in the chat.
Rip and Pip. Yeah, press F to pay respects to the 6th house and the tribe unmourned, please.
So you're saying that Dagoth Ur himself, when he was calling you, what's it called?
Nerevar, yeah.
He was lying to our faces?
Yes. I don't know if he knew he was lying, but yes.
He's a god, though. He should know. Or is
he should know, but he doesn't yet because he hasn't become an actual awakened being. He's come to the point of anti-CHIM. So he doesn't know, like, he is not the same type of god as Vivec is a type, or rather Vec is a type of god. It's a little complicated, but basically, yeah, basically the Nerevarine is the one who completes the journey of the Nerevarine. In the same way that Sheogorath is the person who mantled Sheogorath. You know what? That's a good way of saying it. The Nerevarine in Morrowind mantles Nerevar. The rest of them were what we call failed incarnates because they did not complete the path to mantle Nerevar fully. So could you say that it's Nerevar's soul? Kind of. It's not the exact same situation as mantling Sheogorath, but it's a very similar vein of thought. Because in the game, you literally have to become the Hortator. You literally have to become Nerevar Reborn or the Nerevarine as accepted by the Ashlanders. You have to do all the things that the prophecy says, and you have to win. And then you become the actual, factual Nerevar reincarnated.
I see.
Okay, so now that we've brought up Hortator, we gotta bring up Sharmat. So Dagoth Ur is called the Sharmat.
Oh god. That's a load of topics.
So the Sharmat
Chat, go crazy now. We're talking about the Sharmat.
Yes.
Himself,
so the Sharmat, well, not yes and no. So the Sharmat comes from the Dreamer trying to recollect his thoughts, as one might say. So
Slab says maybe when you get the Moon and Star, you mantle Nerevar.
Well, yeah, that's fair because Moon and Star will kill anybody who isn't actually Nerevar. So that is a fair point. I don't know if any of the failed incarnates ever got to that point. I'm guessing probably not. But yes, as lore is written, the ring, Moon, and Star can only be worn by Nerevar, or else you just insta-die. So, the Sharmat is an entity / force that the Dreamer creates to reconcile himself and recombine himself, basically reform his psyche. However, it gets filtered through the lens of Anu and Padme. And when it gets filtered through this, it kind of becomes a corrupted force, a force that is using agents to try to reunify the Dreamer. In the Sharmat's case, it's by force. Dagoth Ur is the only canon listed Sharmat. However, I have heard it argued that Mirak is a Sharmat of a sort.
Is a Sharmat?
Yes.
Dang.
So,
man, we have to make some shorter videos about these theories. This is like insane.
Well, I mean, I'd be happy to do it, but so Mirak is might be a Sharmat because of the process of which he is, because of the goals of which he is attempting to accomplish. So
Mirak and Dagoth Ur kind of have the similar goals. Good point.
Similar, not exactly the same, and sometimes, so the Sharmat is more of a force than it is an entity, and you can have multiple Sharmats at once. It is possible. And they can even have contradicting goals, or I should say they have contradicting ways to get to the goal. Because let's say Dagoth Ur survived, and Mirak steps on the scene. Mirak is doing the work of the Sharmat, which is cohesion, unification. He is mind-controlling people to attempt to become, the god of Nirn. Dagoth is unifying people in order to falsely reconcile himself as the Dreamer. Their goals would contradict each other and would cause fighting. However, they are both the Sharmat because they are both seeking to forcefully recombine the universe in their image.
By the way, Connor, fun fact to encourage you. You're doing little Dagoth Ur God's work. You know why? This
Why?
is the most viewership we've gotten on a live stream on this channel. On any live stream.
Woohoo!
So good. Continue.
All right, so
once we start gaming, imagine how much we have. How much?
Yeah.
All right, continue.
So, okay, so so that's the concept of the Sharmat, is forceful unification through force. It is opposed by what Morrowind colloquially calls the Hortator, who is using diplomacy and cooperation to unify the people. So Dagoth Ur is the Sharmat to the Nerevarines, or Nerevars, ultimately, Hortator.
You're the Sharmat to my Hortator.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So Dagoth Ur, as the god, the Sharmat, believes himself to be the epitome of Velothi culture, Velothi being the Chimer culture. So he wants to basically reunite the Dunmer into Velothi culture through a hive mind. Basically, if everyone is me, then everyone is perfect. And that's what I want. Perfection. So everybody should just become me. And so he would ultimately, I guess in like maybe a Halo comparison, he would be the, what did they call it in Halo? The spore things. There's like a main one, like a head. Okay, let me use Illithids. It's like a Mind Flayer's brain. The one entity that kind of imposes its will on the rest of the colony. Which is what is known as a hive mind. A hive mind consciousness. Thank you.
Mind.
Yes, Andres. Grave mind. Thank you. So Dagoth Ur essentially is the grave mind to the rest of Nirn. Or at least the ones that he has successfully converted. So he's acting basically as a limb for the Sharmat to be to reunite. And what MK on a post, I don't know if the post is still available for viewing, but MK, Michael Kirkbride, for those of you who don't know who MK is, the one of the big writers of lore during Morrowind and I think Daggerfall.
Do we have Kirkbradians in the chat? Do we?
I don't know.
Would you, Connor, before we continue, are you a Kirkbradian?
Am I a Kirkbradian?
Yes.
What? Can you define that for me?
Those who think that Michael Kirkbride is canon.
Oh man, I am really conflicted because a lot of the lore he wrote after he left the team is really good, and I want it desperately to be canon, but I if I have to take a stance on it, Kirkbride is not canon unless we find it in the games.
I agree.
Or the books, the official books, which, by the way, there are Elder Scrolls books. One of them is based on, if you played Skyrim, you might have ever found the weird tree in the middle of that pond that has a little that's a hist. Yeah, that's a history, and it fell off of a floating island. And in order to understand all that, you should go check the book out. I haven't read it myself, but I've heard it's quite good.
If you read the book, we should talk about the book. This is like my profession, so we could talk about the book all the time.
I'll need to order it, but yeah, I can make my way through the books. That's not a problem.
All right.
So you'll have to forgive me. I'm Kirkbride. Well, speaking of Kirkbride, he described Dagoth Ur once in a posting as being a strange quirk. Okay, I'm just gonna, you know what? I am not a chemist, nor am I any kind of scientist, but a strange quark.
I'm sort of a scientist myself. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I mean, if you can explain what a strange quark is, I'd be more than happy.
I can't explain it. No.
I'm
a scientist in the humanities, not the sciences. It's a joke. Anyhow, go ahead.
So, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, a strange quark is basically a particle that, when it comes in contact to other particles, it kind of rewrites its entire being into a strange quark. So a strange quark touches another particle, that particle becomes a strange quark. And then it touches other particles, and if a very minuscule amount of strange quarks were to hit the Earth at any point, we would all be absolutely dead within, well, I'm not sure how long it would take, but everything would turn into a strange quark eventually. Luckily, that's not likely to ever be the case. I mean, who knows? I mean, it could be, but anyway, by assigning Dagoth Ur and analogously calling him an odd quirk kind of helps explain, using our universe's physics, what Dagoth Ur is in his entirety, which is a strange quirk. He goes, he makes everyone else become him through a hive mind connection. No more free will, no more wars, no more famine, no more disputes amongst brother and sister, no more nothing. It's all Dagoth all the way down. And that's pretty much it for, at least for Dagoth. I could go into what an Enantiomorph is, but that might need its own episode. But I can give a quick summary now, and then we'll probably work on an episode dedicated to what an Enantiomorph is. But basically, there are 3 roles that are played in Destiny, in Fate: the Rebel, the King, and the Witness. So let me see if I can. Okay. So let's take Talos, for example. Talos is the combined souls of Hjalti, Wolfhearth, and Zurin. What happens is, Wolfhearth, who is speculated to be a Shezarene, although I will make note, the only in-game Shezarene that we are ever told of or confirmed of is our favorite racist, the lovely Pelinal Whitestrake, who is definitely not a cyborg from the future with laser hands.
Chat, go crazy for Pelinal. Anyway, go ahead. So
Wolfhearth.
He's the confirmed Shezarene.
Yes, he's the confirmed Shezarene. He is the only one that we know by lore is a kind of a fraction of Lorcan's consciousness made manifest, pretty much. Maybe we should have an episode on Shorkan, because I haven't even gone over how Shorkan and Sheogorath are innately linked.
There's a lot of things that's going on.
Yeah, so I guess
with this, it's like not even funny. And we can get some people in as well, we could do one on lessons on Vivec when we do a Vivec episode, because we do have next.
Oh yeah, I'd would love to hear your lessons of Vivec, friend. It would certainly be an interesting conversation, I am sure.
You're sure, or get it?
Yeah, yeah.
Elder Scrolls puns.
So basically, an Enantiomorph is whenever you have the king would be the person or powers that are currently manifest. The rebel is the one that's trying to overtake it, and the witness is the one that proves what happened. Kind of like, have you ever heard how people say you can't observe, or rather, when you observe a particle of, I think it's light, that it can either be, what am I? That's experiment that I'm thinking of, where when you visualize it, it is what it is. But before that, it is in an amorphous state. It requires a a witness to determine what it will be. And that is
Schrodinger's
basically
cat?
the concept.
It's like Schrodinger's cat.
Kind of. Schrodinger's cat is a little misused nowadays, but yes, I would say similar to that. I guess in that scenario, that's the witness's job, is to make things canon, pretty much. So the rebel overthrows the king, usually at the loss of the witness, who is inevitably killed in most examples that we find in an anthomorphic relationship. You could say that Dumak Dwarf King was the king, Nerevar was the rebel, and Nerevar's shield brother was the witness. You could also argue that Nerevar is the king, the Tribunal are the rebel, and Dagoth Ur, or rather Vorin Dagoth, is the witness. And you can also do it with Hjalti, Wolfhearth, and Zurin. So Hjalti would be the rebel overthrowing Wolfhearth, and Zurin is the witness who dies.
Greetings.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much all I have on the notes of Dagoth. I mean, that's kind of it.
Since we're wrapping this up, and like by the title of this thing, I'll have a question for you specifically. Like, since this channel also like has a lot of like anime references and all that stuff, like why would you say that Dagoth is similar to many anime villains? Kind of a loaded question, but
absolutely, positively, Cars from Part 2 of Jojo.
Ooh.
He is. Well, he's the perfect being. That's why he's a god. How can you be more perfect than a god? And Cars becomes a perfect living being, just like Dagoth did. And they're both villains.
Yeah, it's the origin stories of villains that are always like complicated in anime, and in other media too. But in anime, they're always like convoluted and like. So like that actually brings like the question is like, is Dagoth Ur actually the villain?
Not really. I mean, it depends on where your morality stands. Where does Caius Cosades fit into this? Caius fits in around the point of the beginning of Morrowind. I mean, we don't know what happened to him, unfortunately. So basically, what to just touch on Caius, since I don't have a problem just ranting about Elder Scrolls lore. Caius Cosades, quote unquote, pretending to be a skooma addict in Balmora, secretly a Grand Master of the Blades, absolutely wrecks your crap in hand to hand, and is also an expert in unarmored. And eventually the Empire tells him that they need to restation him because they are pretty sure that he is an actual drug addict at this point, which he is. So they kind of drag him back to another base of Imperial control. To, I don't know, probably punish him, or at the very least give him a lower position than he had based on the fact that he became a skooma addict. But that's where he fits in. He's not really he doesn't really fit into the Dagoth Ur-ness of it all.
We should do a Cosades episode.
Yeah, we can definitely add that to the list.
On Skooma.
Oh, an episode on Skooma. That would be fun. We could probably, we could probably do. I don't know that there's enough lore to make a Skooma episode, but what we could do is we could do a Skooma / Khajiit.
Skooma characters in general.
Well, there are enough characters in Elders, especially in Morrowind, that are Skooma addicts. I mean, Uncle Sweets is a character on
Uncle
Soulstime.
Sweetshare!
So-
Yes!
Yeah, Uncle Sweets.
Ha ha ha, ho ho ho, to the... I should make a video with Uncle Sweetshare. Ha ha ha, ho ho ho. I know, I keep ranting.
Oh,
about
you should
stuff.
wait until it's Christmas time.
Oh, yes.
Wait. Yeah. Wait until December, like middle of December. Do an Uncle Sweets episode. That would be great.
Oh my gosh, yes. We should, okay, Serrano...
He could explain all the different types of skooma and moon sugar and the effects that it has on the different races. That would be hilarious. Hell, we could put in hist sap too. That's a drug.
Yes. Yeah, by the way, speaking of which, do you think Dagoth Ur views Argonians actually as farm tools?
He probably doesn't have a problem with slavery, although slavery wouldn't exist in his society because everyone would be him. So there would be no racism, there would be no classism, there would be no famine, no war, nothing bad, but also everybody is a mind. Well, I guess there is slavery in Dagoth's worldview because everybody will pretty much be a mind slave to Dagoth. So does he actually think they're... Yeah. Well, I mean, they'll be perfect because they'll all be extensions of Dagoth Ur, but in essence, they are all farm tools.
Perfect farm tools? So
yeah.
So you're saying, guys, I can't believe what I'm hearing. So Connor, you're saying that Dagoth Ur doesn't believe that in Dunmer supremacy?
Say that one more time.
He does not.
I was reading the chat. Sorry, Astral Dragon put a pretty good little message. Anyway, go ahead.
You don't believe that Dagoth Ur believes in Dunmer supremacy?
Oh no, of course Dagoth Ur believes in Dunmer supremacy, but
yeah,
well, not everyone, but a good portion of the population of Nirn would just, like, it wouldn't... Race would no longer exist. You would either be a weird Cthulhu monster, or you'd be a gross Corpus monster. Like, those are the only two avenues you have. And I don't actually honestly know which is worse.
The only people who benefit is Dagoth Ur and the Ash Vampires.
Yeah, the Ash Vampires are a concept that I didn't really look into very much, but I am not sure if they are literally Dagoth Ur's, like, brothers / close friends, or if they were just really old awakened sleepers and just was promoted. I'm not really sure yet. I would have to go deep diving for that pearl of wisdom.
I see.
But I would say Vorin Dagoth the Mortal was definitely a Dunmer supremacist, and maybe saw the Dwemer pretty high up as a standard. I don't think that Vorin would have banned Dwemer from being in Morrowind because they got along swimmingly until Dumac decided to try to destroy Nirn and become a god of nothing. But that did happen, and Dagoth Ur was created, and I do not think that Dagoth Ur, the god, is necessarily a Dunmer supremacist. In his speeches, he always talks about the mongrel dogs of the Empire. He doesn't really... I don't recall any type of, like... Oh...
No, he does.
He does. Dunmer... Oh, he does?
I think so.
It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit since I played Morrowind. So I'm not, I don't have the whole game memorized. So if he does, then well, there you go. If it's in the game, it's in the game. so did say that, then yes, he would believe that Dunmer were the supreme race. But again, kind of ultimately a moot point when the end result of you is either a tentacle monster or a flesh monster. Like, you will no longer be Argonian, Khajiit, Redguard, nor you're just going to either be weird tentacle monster that is enslaved by Dagoth mentally and you no longer have a will of your own, or you degrade into a zombie. That's pretty much your only options with Corpus.
I see. All right. So, does anyone have any questions? Let's answer some questions and then wrap it up. I think this is good. This was actually one of the best streams we had on this channel ever.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel very that's appreciated.
Well, yeah,
anybody who has questions, well, yeah, I mean, I was, we had a garage sale on Sunday, and all I was doing the whole time while waiting for people to come and look at the stuff was listening to podcasts, going into these topics.
Look upon my garage.
Yeah.
Did I get there? That's good.
Oh, and yeah, Dagoth Ur's garage sale.
Man.
I spent
merch. Once we get merch, that's what we should do. Come there, Mark. Come, look at this merch. Look upon this merch.
Yes. Oh man, if we get merch, oh, that's gonna be great. I actually know an artist that might help out. Well, she just had a child, so she may be under the weather. But I could probably get something mocked up that she would agree to allow us to use as official merch. I'm sure we're very good friends.
Nice. Yeah, I also have some familiar artists, so we can talk about that. Anyhow, questions in the chat. Let's see. Only mongrel dogs of the Empire go more than a week without playing Morrowind and haven't memorized it. I'm reading the Basti Argonian. Dagoth Ur the Building now provides gender affirmation surgery. Weird Cthulhu monster or Ash zombie.
Correct. Yes, there are only two genders, and they are cult monster or corporate zombie. That's your choices. That's your choices. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is with Dagoth Ur. It's just the way it is.
We need to cancel Dagoth Ur on Twitter.
Cancel Dagoth Ur.
Cancel Dagoth
Ur. Astral Dragon says, Dagoth Ur doesn't appreciate that Nerevar sold the Heart of Lorkhan at the garage sale. Yeah, I think he'd be a little miffed.
Oh, someone should just... Actually, you know what's really funny? A Heart of Lorkhan t-shirt.
We could put it. You could put it right on the heart area and just.
Yes.
Yeah, that might be good. That might be a good design choice to do.
And then it says, "Look upon the heart."
How much y'all pay for an eighth of moon sugar? Hey, listen. I have a license for this, a medical license for this moon sugar. So, the answer to that is about $35 to $40 an eighth.
For moon sugar, yes.
For moon sugar, yes, moon sugar. We're not condoning anything except moon sugar and skooma. That's the only drugs you should be doing. Do not do any other drugs. No, please and thank you.
Feldew. You should do Feldew.
Oh yes, Feldew. Yes, of course. I mean, you gotta have your morning pick me up of Feldew.
And some others, like his sap.
Yes, his sap is a nice hallucinogen that you could take. Absolutely,
and
absolutely.
You become Goblin Slayer, but then you realize they were not actual goblins.
Yeah, these weren't goblins. Never have been.
Skooma, good.
Yes, skooma is good for stamina.
Yes.
Yep. You know, you got your classics. You got Feldew for, your feel good. You got skooma for your pick me up. You got hist sap for your hallucinogens. So, you got a pretty good spread there. I would say, hashtag legalize skooma.
Hashtag. Hashtag legalize
Well,
skooma.
yeah, I don't know if we still use hashtags. I do not. I am 30, but I feel like I am 60 in terms of keeping up with the trends.
I see. So, do you guys have any questions? If not, thank you everyone for honoring the 6th house of the Tribunal Norms. Do you think this is a good stopping point?
All right, yeah.
Oh, there's also
and Jaren Root. Yes, of course, yes. Many drugs in the Michael Kirkbride claims he was not on drugs outside of alcohol. I believe he said specifically scotch when he wrote the 36
Scotch
lessons.
Or skooma.
Yeah, I want to take him at his word. I really want to take him at his word that he wrote the lessons of Vivec drunk on scotch. But when you read that stuff, it really, really seems like he was on something else.
Yes.
But I don't want to diminish his creativity by saying that only drugs got him to make the lore that he made. And so obviously, respect that he says that it was alcohol only. Don't spread rumors and all that good jazz that'll keep us monetized on YouTube. Please do not attack anyone for their views. Thank you.
All right.
But looks like that might be it. If anybody watches this on the backlog and wants to post a comment,
by the way, I'm gonna put it in the podcast playlist section, so people can watch it as a podcast.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
over the next
immediately after we do it, so it's in the podcast section, so people could listen to this in YouTube Music as well.
Yeah. So
podcast art, if this is gonna be a regular thing.
Yeah, we should. I'll let me see if I can. I'm into the art community, the digital art community, so maybe I can get somebody to mock something up. I know a couple of artists now.
Perfect.
But yeah, I mean, if anybody comes through this backlog, hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. But if anybody would like to leave comments under the video with either your personal headcanon or corrections, if I got any of this wrong, like I said, most of this is not official because Bethesda's kind of wishy-washy on canonizing things. But yeah, shoot us up in the Discord or a comment down below. I'll try to check. I'll try to check over the next week or two any comments that might show up on YouTube.
Quite a bit. If you join the Discord, we do have. We might ask you a few things, and of course you'll be paid for your art and stuff. So with the YouTube
yes, we of course will be paying you. Yes, we will be paying any artist that gets involved.
I need those tax write-offs, by the way. You start paying Uncle Sam, I'd rather pay the artists.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, thank you for listening to our unhinged rant about Dagoth Ur that also went into about 1,000 other topics that we will get to in a podcast eventually.
I'm gonna make a poll of what people want, as a podcast topic. Awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's base our lore topics on what people suggest. That way, it's always refreshing when
All right. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to honor the 6th house and the Tribunal Norms. By
raise your thumbs. Click, ring the 6th house bell.
Yes. Thank you. And bye-bye. And again, good job, Connor. Everyone, thank Connor for doing an amazing job being an amazing host today. Thank you.
I do my best. I do in fact love the lore of this world, and it's a bit of an obsession at this point, but you know, it's not hurting anyone.
Hey,
So
eventually your obsession came to fruition. We are at this point by what's it called? Lord Dagoth has brought us to this point of
yeah,
being a lore
I'm
podcast.
yeah, you know, I mean, podcasting / singing was always something that I wanted to get into, and I didn't know how. And now we have an outlet for that. So
Yes.
I'm definitely happy to be part of the channel, and hopefully we'll see this grow into a large thing.
Perfect. All right, guys. See you later. It's Total Scholar of a Man. True. All right. Have a great day, guys. Bye bye.